Media as a whole, especially social media, has changed our narrative perception of what is normal in everyday society. And much like every platform, there always seems to be standouts, ones that are our perception of immediate thought when it comes to those platforms. It could be a specific movie star, a famous actor from a TV show, perhaps. Unlike those narratives, social media has a weird fascination with blending the line between reality and fiction. But what happens when those narratives, especially social media narratives, change to a point where it's no longer an act, where even the audience is unsure which is which? This raises an interesting question. Are influencers actually provocateurs? The podium is the structure in which celebrity culture is given. It could be its own TV show or its own channel, be it on YouTube, Twitch, or any other service. So long as there is a platform, and so long as there are willing people to listen, there will always be celebrities. The difference being within the internet landscape, it's less to do with what you do, and more with an algorithm of numbers. Your status is only determined based off of your specific numbers associated with you, much like how praise and admiration are used as an internal means for satisfaction. Too much praise can create an idolization, which can, in turn, justify the actions of the individual's negative or positive nature. Many terms have been used with influencers as do it for the fans, do it for the content. Now, these statements alone are not necessarily negative. It is the actions which determine what is and isn't wrong. The more this negative action creates a cycle of monetization and praise, the more it becomes a necessity for an individual to repeat said actions, or even go above and beyond, to the point where many of them, much like any item, can be put under so much pressure that they break. But as the controversy grows, those same people could be used as a scapegoat once they become so high that they create new controversies to compensate for the small ones, almost like setting off a bomb to distract from the arson that you once committed. Probably the biggest culprit into this narrative of negative or positive culture within the social media norm is marketing. Very similar to how the term controversy sells, so too is marketing. There are hundreds of websites that literally just distribute and manufacture the same content and spread their narrative so much wider. This goes for any industry, from retailers to movies to music. Now, are these marketers necessarily good or bad? Perhaps not necessarily, for without an audience there would be nothing to sell, and in turn there would be nothing to market. Much like a hydra, when one celebrity falls, more will take its place. And so the cycle begins anew, with a continual marketing of new content that's almost identical to the previous. Much like each library and books are very different, so are each influencer and platform, split into fiefdoms of every kind of culture that you can look upon. Much like how we experience schadenfreude when an individual falls, and is not necessarily completely hurt, but they are hurt enough for us to find a little bit of enjoyment of it, will individuals find a narrative justice for the good and the bad. But that compass is always up to the individual. Much like how each book creates its own history and story, so do the individuals. Which leads to the question, are influencers actually provocateurs? Well, it depends on what they've done, who they are, the moral compasses that they encapsulate and follow, and possibly the most important point, that they do not let their moral compass sway the direction of another individual based off of their own personal choices. But ultimately, these are not questions. These are hypotheticals.
A sword is a weapon. The art of swordsmanship is learning how to kill. That is the truth. What Miss Kaoru says is sweet and innocent talk that only those whose hands have never been stained with the blood of men can believe. But to tell you the truth, I much prefer Miss Kaoru's sweet and innocent talk over the truth. Indeed I do.